Detroit is Different is where you get information, artistry, history, music, and even comedy. Detroit is Different, a home for the culture of Detroit. Visit online at DetroitisDifferent.com today.
All right, welcome back to the Detroit is Different podcast. And today we keeping things rolling with something unique, something that a deep brother, somebody that's very creative, but he also loves to laugh, as we have kind of like a kindred spirit through not just poetry and spoken word, but also some of the interesting comedians that I love to engage with. Shout out my brother Josh Adams, that actually, as we speak right now, should be on stage at the music hall. Big concert promotion for him. But we're talking about men, mental health, events, what a healing circle looks like, and this is definitely dynamic. So, Prostell Thomas, Mr. Thomas, how you feeling?
Peace, brother. How you doing, man?
Everything's cool, man. Everything's cool. And you're also one of the biggest supporters of Detroit is Different. Like, you'll comment, and like when we did our State of Black Detroit, like you were going on stuff. I was like, hey, Yusef, this is a comment from.
yeah. I mean, it's for me. Detroit. Sometimes we take ourselves for granted because we're so relatively small compared to other cities. But we have so many impactful people, and this platform, it allows me to like stay in tune with what's happening with the city. Because I hadn't seen when I was scrolling, I saw Yusuf's face, and I ain't seen Yusuf. That's my brother. I ain't seen him in a while, and I know he's active, and I know he's always moving. So like being able to tap in, and then when I saw that interview, then I saw the interview with Malika Keeney. I'm like, oh snap! It's 2 Malika interviews that I know of. I just found 2 so far, but it's like being able to really be in tune with, because we it's a small community, but it's a lot going on. It's a lot going on, and if we only looked at the news, if we only looked at the mainstream media to see what was going on in Detroit, man, we'd be lost for real. So.
Yep, and I'm glad you're familiar with it, because this style just kind of gives more context to it. Is you walking out, you met one of our podcasters here, Jennifer Crawford, and she has a story, and we have other stories. Like, I think news and media is for what it is. I have some experience in that world, but this is really to give a context for more of the story of how you got to where you go, because that's usually what I always think, hence what really connected me to podcasting in the beginning. It was just like, yeah, I like this 48 Laws of Power, but what made him write this? And then you listen to a podcast, and it's not like I like the book less or like it more. It just puts things in a frame of like, why would you study all of this? Like, guns, germs, and steel. What made you want to make a PhD on this? So that goes to your Detroit story, your family. What brought your family to the city of Detroit?
Wow, so that's. I don't know if I've been asked that question before. So my city of Detroit, my grandfather, Raymond M. Murphy, who passed away during the pandemic. He was a state senator for a long time, and he was the first person out of that side of the family that came to Detroit.
Where the roots? Where they?
He was from St. Louis, so he left St. Louis.
Time out. You are from the Show Me State. Your people,
nah.
They got roots there.
I got cousins in St.
Louis.
You
got family from St. Louis.
I got cousins. I got homeboys in St. Louis that's like cousins to me. I love St. Louis. St. Louis, I would consider like a sister city to Detroit. They real. They lit up there too. You better,
okay,
what I'm saying?
Now, let me say something for black people that have never been to St. Louis. Okay, New Orleans got its own feel.
Yeah.
Chicago for sure got a feel. We know Detroit is different.
Obviously.
St. Louis is you got to go there. You got to experience. It's different.
It's definitely
different. It's like, what is going on? Like, St. Louis is one of the few cities where you'll see someone in a tailored suit. Yeah. Like, you can sort of see this in Detroit, but no, not like you'll see somebody in a tailored suit and gaiters on, then somebody like in a tuxedo, then somebody, then like a black Catholic priest, and then like somebody like in like a tank top. It's just like, when people first saw that Nelly video, what's that? Country Grammar with like the colors and I'm like, yo, that's St. Louis for you.
Yeah. And they're some of the most interesting and just lively, just different. Like you said, Detroit is different, but folks from St. Louis, I can see why we cousins. So
yes,
I love St. Louis, but that's where my grandfather. He came here as a teen. He interestingly, my grandmother was a orphan. She came here with her aunt and uncle, and they really just, you know how Detroit is, man. Detroit will bring you in, and if the city accepts you, you're a Detroiter. So my grandfather lived here. He worked in the plant. My grandmother, she was where I get my activist DNA from, because she came up in the church. She came up in Sacred Heart Church, but she was always doing things with St. Vincent de Paul, feeding the homeless. You know, she was the person I would go ride in the car with, where we gonna go pick up these clothes from this church and we gonna take them over here to this other church. We gonna stop and look through them, see if this stuff fits you first. But we're gonna go do work to help other people outside of our family.
Now, you said something that's unique. So your grandfather was here as a state senator, but started in the plant. So he started with, I'm guessing, union roots.
Yeah, I mean, he was with the young Democrats. He was we would see a lot of the the old school Detroit politicians.
And I was going to say that's exactly where I was about to go, because Coleman Young's roots took him through the state house and then brought him over to be mayor. Yeah. And it was a collection of this, I want to say, organizational black leadership, honing themselves, and it would be like from the stories I hear, it would be almost like a intellectual dojo of these men and some women like Irma Henderson just going back and forth, but especially like with those union backgrounds of, no, this is how we gonna organize. No, that's how we gonna organize. Just that back and forth. Yeah. So your grandfather was kind of in this mix.
Yeah, my grandfather, we saw all of them, John Conyers, all of them. They were, we'd see them at the house, and it was, again, when I think of Detroit, I think of it was intimate, right? It was intimate. I got to see these legendary men in the city, but it wasn't unusual, because in Detroit, you think of the great Detroiters. What are they? They're accessible to the people. You can touch them. You know what I'm saying? So I grew up in a house. It's interesting because my grandfather was a politician, but again, my activist roots came from my grandmother. My grandmother was doing the homeless events, working with the church. She was the one getting a call at 3 o'clock in the morning. And no disrespect to my grandfather, he was great at what he did. But my grandmother was the one that I saw actually actively, we got to do something about this. And that attracted me to her. That attracted me to the even though I left the church a long time ago, the church I grew up in, Sacred Heart Catholic Church over there on 75 and Mac, behind the McDonald's. It's
and that work definitely connects you to many other families, as I know the Talaferro family, Chokwe. I mean, that though a Catholic church has held so many African centered black events where you see this you know what I'm saying? You'll see is this for real at the camp?
We had I remember when I first started coming into consciousness, and that's another thing we got into Detroit. We have a lot of awakened and intentional mindset. So people were talking to me about the church while I was still in the church. And that church is a Catholic church, which definitely has its history. But we had Black Jesus inside the church, inside this Catholic church during this is during the 80s and the 90s, which is not in itself going to keep me there. But it was enough to let me know I was growing up in a different environment. Detroit, being in Detroit where it was we were right across from the Brewsters. You know what I'm saying? We was right around the corner from the King home. So there was Detroit immersed itself in that space and changed the nature of I believe the building. But that's where I grew up there. Moved a lot because my pops was in the Air Force. He's from Ohio. My pops was an Ohio guy.
Whereabouts in Ohio?
So he grew up in Youngstown, Ohio.
For real, Youngstown is another one of those gritty cities.
Yeah,
that's
sure.
Like a gritty, when I throw cities close, I tell people in Chicago, I'm like, okay, Flint is the Flint of Chicago is Gary, Indiana.
Yeah.
Or possibly East St. Louis. Youngstown, Ohio, I don't even necessarily have a frame of reference of a Michigan perspective, because it's a very gritty, hard-nosed city.
Well, even when at some point in my story, I ended up in the United Nations of Islam, and I was around a lot of the elder brothers who came up in the first with the messenger. And Youngstown was a city that the temple in Youngstown had a reputation that if, something needed to happen, what we gonna call the brothers from Youngstown. And as my pops is obviously my pops, so I respect him for as that. But it's definitely it was a small town, but it's that passage. You don't want You want to some of these small towns you want to go in and create no trouble. Say, you know what I'm saying?
I was gonna definitely say, yeah, like if you're
sure, talk about you from Detroit if you want to.
If you are, as they say, sometimes like California has a lot of towns like that. A lot of towns, as they say, people that needed to exit another city fast.
Yeah,
that's one of those cities that if you thinking that okay, I got out of that town because maybe that water's got a little hot, I'm gonna go over here and do what I did there. That's a city you just want to keep.
Nah,
you just want to keep driving.
Show respect because they
just want to keep driving.
Show respect because they don't play. They don't play. You know what I'm saying? So, but I came. I ended up back in Detroit as I was beginning high school. I ended up actually my junior year. I ended up at Detroit Northern High School.
Ah, you went to Northern, the North End.
Should have been a Jayhawk.
And right now it's no longer, but Northern has a heck of a, you know what I'm saying? That was, you know, the Motown legends, and I mean for me, it's Derek Coleman as a legend.
Come on now, Derek Coleman, Lynn Bush. A matter of fact, so this is a little anecdote. Chauncey, I just found this out. So the Mr. Michigan in football and basketball, same young man, he goes to King. His daddy played ball in Northern. That's when I heard the name, I was like, that's Chauncey's son? That's Chauncey's son. But again, so Detroit's small, man. Detroit is real small, man.
So that neighborhood and the North End has a different, like right now we're looking at some of the works Bryce is doing over there. Yeah. I'm looking at just the legacy that the godmother of the North End, rest in peace, Dolores Bennett. That was like one of my big homies. You know, it's one of my biggest supporters early on where I definitely, I mean, I'm still figuring stuff out, but I really didn't have much figured out. And she'd be like, come up here and talk to these kids.
Yeah.
So what was, because the North End it's an interesting feel over there.
It's different. And it's, you know, it's because a lot of times Detroit, we got this east side, west side rivalry.
Yeah.
And me, I was always like, well, I'm not really attached to either one. Yeah, I was going to say, that's where
the North End,
we're not really, somebody on the east side, but with the North End on the west side, like, no, we ain't. And somebody on the east side be like, you know what I'm saying? But
West Siders think it's the east side, and East Siders think it's the west side.
That's not what this is. That's not what this is. But it's beautiful. It's, again, like so much Detroit, it's a humble place, right? There's a lot of beautiful architecture. There's a lot of beautiful homes that have been in families for years and years and years. And, you know, it was not always a place of wealth, though. Even going to Northern High School, you know, it was a DPS high school in the 90s, so it was, you know, it was tough. But I know me coming there in my junior year, you know, as somebody who was moving back and forth, I was welcomed and I was taken care of at that school. You know what I'm saying? By the people at the school, I still have, you know, great relationships with people at a school. I only went to that school 2 years, but it's still a very huge part of my community, my psyche, my perspective as I move forward into the world. I'm always, you know, I went to North. That's my school right there. Every time we go to G Smooth, in fact, we're going to G Smooth tonight. I'll be right around the corner. That's also a Northern graduate. I'll be right around the corner from North.
That's G Smooth went to North.
Yeah, G Smooth, Motor City Freeway. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot of young old legends.
I didn't know the Jayhawks was that prevalent even in I guess the poetry community.
I mean, you know, we do a little something. We do a little something. But shout out the Freeway. But I graduated Northern. I graduated Northern High School. I did a year at UAD. I quickly figured out, because I left high school thinking, what can I do that will have the most impact? What can I do that will, like, I knew I could go to school. I was a smart kid. I could go to school and be a doctor, an engineer or something, but what could I do that would have the most impact in my community? Because, you know, we growing up in the 90s, it's clear something's got to change. This ain't, like, where we grew up wasn't right. Like, the schools, I love my school, but it's bad. And, like, we didn't figure out this year that the schools weren't doing what they supposed to do. We knew this when we were going to them. So I came out trying to figure out what I could do that had the most impact. I wanted to go in education, but I started studying religion because I was recognizing that the church, although the work I was doing, I was in love with, the theology wasn't necessarily aligning with my values. So I started to explore that. I ended up developing a relationship with the United Nation of Islam, which is a offshoot of the Nation of Islam that at the time was headquartered out of Kansas City, Kansas. And, you know, it was, I spent 10 years there. I actually wrote a book about it.
Now, how did you connect at such a young age? And then let me say this, too, about that same corridor is Piper always says this too. You know, P. Groove's dad used to. You know, P. Groove's dad. So also in that same corridor, because like I don't know what it is, it's just like almost like I get a little bit past the Turkey Grill and I get a little bit further up, and I think it's almost like a vessel that connects that to Highland Park, which I consider the Detroit's Harlem. But at one point in time, it was a place that was big in that space, and it's Arknar Tunes.
Yes, sir. I was not expecting to come here. Absolutely, that was, man. Yeah, now you got me emotional because that was one of the first spaces that connected me to eating healthy. Like just a conscious decision of, you walk in there and my first father-in-law introduced me to the same man who introduced me to the UNOI, and he was somebody who had one of them diets. We couldn't eat everywhere. So when we was together, we was hustling, and he wanted to stop and get something to eat. Well, we pull up over this building. And I'm looking like, it's a bunch of old ladies in there cooking. And I'm looking at the food like this ain't what they serving up the street. And it was all delicious. And it was
amazing. To the point where like I tell Piper, cause through P Group, I'm like, can you please, for the life of me, if I can get that dressing.
Listen, man. It was because, when you first learn about eating healthy, most of it's nasty. I remember the real first time was my grandma was trying to eat healthy, so she bought some tofu. Mm-hmm. And it was so nasty. I was like, I'm glad that I went in there and tasted the food before I realized like this is actually healthy food. This is food that's not gonna kill you. Yeah. And but that space. It was
such an experience. Like you would walk in. For me, I'm getting some healthier options of soul food because they met me where I was at. Yeah. But then it'd be a person in the back selling Farrakhan lectures or Jaramogi lectures, writings of Francis Cress Welsing, all in like in this is that Detroit is different. It still be some of the most gangsters walking up in there too.
It's the same people. It's I learned as an educator that the child who challenges the system a lot of times is really taking an honest position about something that they know is not for them. They know this is not for them. However, they're gonna be honest about it. So they're gonna stand up and say, "Why are we doing this? This is dumb." Now, a lot of the adults think it's dumb too, but you as a child, you don't always have the
you don't have the language. Yes.
So I say that to say, and this is especially relevant, at least to my journey in Detroit, because at that time, I was coming into something that I didn't have a background in. My mother and father weren't what you would call conscious people. They're great people. My father, one of the best men I've met in my life, but he wasn't. A lot of the things from the standpoint of diet and consciousness were things that I was encountering for the first time and brought it to the family. But Detroit grabbed me and taught me a lot. Like, just like, well, you want to learn about this? Well, here. You know what I'm saying? Here goes some books. Here goes some tapes. Here's a place where we gather, and somebody going to pull you to the side and say, hey, young brother, why don't you, don't wear your pants like this, wear them like this. Here's why. Here's what that means. And it's a sea of knowledge and information. Again, coming back to the importance of this, right? Because there are libraries of information that if we do not make a priority of sharing and documenting and saying, here go the files, here go these important conversations we had, so that my children, I got 3-year-old triplets, but they're gonna grow up one day and they're gonna want to know more than I can even tell them.
Yeah. So, and then even like how this conversation is pulling out of you certain things that you forgot, because immediately when you said and I'm unfamiliar with the UNI, United Nation of Islam. And I want to ask some more questions about that. But immediately when I thought that, and I'm like, North End, you had to have been in Arknar Tunes, because that's the place where some heightened consciousness was connecting, just being around there.
Man, yeah, there, Black Star bookstore. Mm-hmm. My children. So I have 11 biological children. I have 16 children that I've raised or have guardianship. My first children that I raised were actually my cousins. I got guardianship with them when I was 18, like a lot of family. And that's the thing, right? Like we're speaking about consciousness, we're speaking about activism, but really we're in it too. Like, I'm not trying to save something outside of myself. I'm looking at my situation as my family. My family suffers from mental illness.
These are applicable solutions. Like right now, it's not like this is good and it may help somebody. It's like, yo, I'm about to use that right now.
Like, with this event, there's going to be people coming to answer questions that I got, and I'm booking them so that everybody gets the answer. But it's because we suffered this. But to the point of the story, at that time, I had my 2 younger cousins, and when I got married, I had a stepdaughter. They went to Enseroma. Now we were a young family in Enseroma, and there were so many people who now today, right? We're talking 20 years later, who have gone on and done legendary things and built other great institutions and done other great works. We had the opportunity, even not just myself, my family had the opportunity to be around them when we started selling. So I sold food in the city for just about as long as I've been an adult. That was the first time we had a little vending table out in the hallway in Enseroma, and my wife she baked some cookies. She's phenomenal to this day, one of the greatest cookies I've ever in my life. We baked some cookies, put them out on the table, and just so many organic conversations. First of all, let's talk about that's an activity, right? That's something for us to do where we can exercise this knowledge. Not just, what I'm saying, because you can give somebody some knowledge, but if you don't give them a place to practice it, what have you really done for them?
Yeah.
So having these spaces, having these gatherings, the first Kwanzaa events I started going to, I went to as an adult, but the city, has always, even with this event we're doing, a lot of these relationships were born organically from, like, even me and you, like, there was no, I don't think there was any formal introduction. It's just like, I keep seeing, I see this brother over here.
Around.
I see this brother. He rock with Josh too. I said, okay. So it's that being in community, like active community with people that builds these relationships and makes us, want to support one another. And that's why it's important. That's why it's important, first of all, to do it, but also to, like, again, have platforms like this where we can say, hey, there's something, you dealing with mental illness in your family, you trying to figure out what to do with your loved one when they on your porch at 3 o'clock in the morning, come to Avalon Village on the 24th. We're going to have some answers. You dealing with, this is what we do know. We live in an environment that is damaging to us every time we step outside. You know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna, like, speaking about the price, how stressful the price of gas is. We're just living in an environment where there's just so much layer upon layer upon layer of trauma, not just what you're experiencing now, but what your mom and them experience and what that generation experienced before that. So if you don't address those things, or if we don't create systems to address those things, they start to do what they've been doing. They start to wear us down. And, we know 25 years ago, Governor Engler closed all the mental hospitals in the state. In doing this event, I've come to find out that, the lowest amount of money that Medicaid gives is for a mental health patient. You can go in there if you're drug addicted, they'll give you a certain amount of money. But if you're there because you suffer from bipolar schizophrenic, the facility will get the least amount of money. Not, unless you have private insurance or something of that nature. Well, these are systemic problems, right? Like, again, we know we're going to experience these issues. There's no, even though there are entities that receive millions upon millions of dollars to serve us in that area, they're not doing it. So when you ask, like, what organization is doing this event, this event is being done because on my way here, I just got off the phone with my cousin because we trying to figure out what to do for our other cousin who's bipolar, and we can't wrap our arms quite around him.
And we're going to definitely introduce that. I want to pick up with your story. We're going to go right into that because you're speaking about that. But like, even the work that Dave is doing at Inception with the mental health gym. And when he spoke to it, I was like, mental health gym. That's interesting. And he's got more perspective. And then you look at it and then you see it, the floating, the brainwave. He does like an intense extraction of traumatic therapy. It's interesting, and it makes sense as I was told once that kind of like Joy DeGruy and other things like what can be in your DNA. And I was told once that it's like, if you had an alcoholic in your family, that can live for like 3 generations just through the DNA and what that's connected to and how that's connected. And I was thinking to myself, like, that's interesting. And then it's like, okay, what's labeled an alcoholic? When do I know it's just, was granddad just a casual drinker? What labeled him an alcoholic? And what the layers are and just how things are and what was labeled. But it still makes me think what we can carry. So we're talking before this, and you're like, this is really an event in strengthening specifically like men's mental health. But speak to what's happening. What's coming up?
Oh, so the event, yeah. So we're trying to address the whole thing. Not trying to. We are addressing. We are creating the space to address the whole thing because none of us have all the answers. All of us are engaged in this fight, and similar to what you do here, I know a lot of people who are doing work on the front lines of this fight. Well, what is, we talk about strategy, right? We talk about revolution action requiring strategy. So part of a strategy is say, hey, let's get everybody who's in the fight in the same room, on the same page. Because you mentioned the brother who had the mental health gym. I need to reach out to him. I need to reach out to him because he's doing the work. He's on this every day. He got people coming, and he's doing work, and he's seeing results. Well, the person who needs that is going to come to this event. They need to know where to get that. The person who is also doing yoga, and I got one piece of it, but I need this other piece because I need my clients to be able to eat healthier. Well, let's get the sister who's doing dietary stuff. Let's get this person I'm doing these 3 things, but I'm ready to take my mental health my mental wellness to another level. Let's bring everybody who's there. So we have. Again, there's an event called Sage Smoke that my sister Adora Bandalay throws. Phenomenal space of healers and Reiki workers and studying the stones and energy and art therapy and all of these things. We have it's going to be hosted by my sister Edda Hesby, from Sweet Potato Sensation, but also she does a great piece on grieving. And healing from grieving. So she's going to actually host a panel. Our panel is going to be Sister Patrice Lucas. She does a ton of phenomenal work, like personally with people, with families. We have Sister Lady Speech Sankofa from Denver, Colorado. She's an activist. She deals in mental health a lot and has a relationship with a lot of people in the city. So we thought it would be a good opportunity to invite her to the city to connect with us because this is not only happening in Detroit. Kalima Johnson from the Sasha Center. They are participating in helping to facilitate our men's healing circle. It's going to be a conversation about men-woman relationships because we can't talk about healing. We can't really heal as the black man if we don't also heal the black woman. And the black woman, it's going to be extremely hard for her to heal, for us to heal as a group if we don't both heal simultaneously.
So as you talk about it, when is this event?
This event is April 24th at Avalon Village.
At Avalon Village, Mama Shu.
Yes,
it's so funny. It's
baby.
going to run concurrent with Mama Shu's interview. So,
Yeah.
what made you want to have this at Avalon Village?
I'm gonna be honest, man. I love Shu. I've been knowing Shu since the Black Hole.
When I was gonna say,
Nation.
really, I was gonna bring that up, but you just went right into
because
it because
when
it seems like all of this is in a footprint of you're in that corridor of like you're in that mix. I know you've gone beyond what the North End is, but now that Woodward corridor, like you kind of in that northern neighborhood.
That's ground zero for me. That's my. It's interesting because I've moved away from the city a lot, and every time I move back, I end up back around over there. And at this point, I don't feel like it's a coincidence. When I was in the nation, to kind of backtrack into my story, when I went to Kansas and I was a full-time volunteer, right? We 24/7. We didn't deal with anything that was outside of nation building, and
specific to the UNOI,
United Nation of Islam. So we had specifically in Kansas there, we had a restaurant, we had a donut shop, we had FOI barracks, we had housing, we had a school.
Very
school
similar
bus.
to the foundation of the Nation of Islam.
Yeah.
In origin.
Yeah, practicing those principles, right? Like we're actually building a nation, not in principle, but in name. These are buildings, these are places, these are activities, because again, if we're going to teach about freedom, we got to give people a place to practice freedom. Without getting too deep into that, but when I came, because I'm gonna pat myself on the back. I did my thing in the nation, and my dream was, because I saw this program work in other cities, and I was like, well, damn, if we can do this, if we can open a bakery in New Haven, Connecticut, from this black organization with all of this, activity, man, if we could just get back to Detroit. If I could just get back to Detroit, I know we can make this thing pop. And I was blessed to be dispatched back to Detroit in 2006. Yeah, my second oldest son was born that same time. And there was a lot going on at that time. But one of the things that was happening was Shu and my sister Sonny. I met them at they had the store the Black Hole.
Black Hole.
Right, and it was around that time that Shu's first son transitioned, and it was around that time that Nandi moved in on the block on Woodward right there.
Wow.
A few doors down. I remember them coming to get me and say, "Hey, I want to introduce you to my sister Nandi." Now here she had, here's the thing: I was selling food. I knew they were selling food in the restaurant, so I was like, I ain't gonna go in here because I ain't trying to be disrespectful. They selling food. I'm gonna come in here. I came down there. They came and got me, and at the time, Baba Kamare was still down there.
Yeah, Baba Kamare.
And that's that's those that know me. That's somebody who I didn't know at the time, but grew closer to me than my kin. I love the brother. He's still his spirit is very much in what it is that we're doing, but that speaking about the origin of the relationship with Shu, it goes back to there, and so we've been friends, and watching each other live and watching each other's families grow, and then seeing what she was doing on Avalon, almost from a place of defiance. But this is what I'm just going to. The one thing that I've always loved about Shu is she's always just been about that action. What is the thing that I need to be doing to move this thing forward for my people? Every time I've ever dealt with her, it's always been on, and also you need to be doing that too, Prostell. Why don't you just do something? Just do something. And
I'm laughing because when I interviewed her, I was like, I don't think I've ever asked her a question where she doesn't say yes. It's always like, I'm thinking about, and it's like, yes, brother, we can do that, but we have to, it'll definitely be within a structure.
Yeah.
And so it just to hear this reiterated through you is shocking, and also you're tying together. So this is also just the as you all see, the excitement of my fanhood of Detroit and different Detroit nuances and culture. You're seeing a lot of water and pots pouring into each other. So he's mentioning first Aknar tunes.
Yeah.
And having a frame of reference of something like the Black Hole working. And then it's okay, sadly, that place, it was a fire, it burns down. It's damn, man, what's going to happen? Then I get a call from somebody hey man, you gotta see Jessica Care Moore. Drake Pfeiffer's you gotta see Jessica Care Moore. She had 90s Knowledge Cafe. I'm I know it, Jessica. I don't really know what's going on. And then I see Jessica, Jessica's spirit, blah 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 blah.
Yeah,
and then I see Barbara Nandi, and she's I don't remember you from Shoe. And I'm
yeah, see?
I'm yes.
Yeah, see?
And then Baba Kamari, Kevlar, who's gonna be a part of this event. Almost these. So people wonder how people are in these spaces and places. When you look back at times, kind of that one movie where they were that one night in Miami where it's you got Jim Brown, you got Sam Cooke, you got Malcolm X, and you got Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
All in the same room.
Yeah.
In my mind, it's damn, that seems weird. But then you think about it in Detroit, just that synergy of Mama Shu, Nandi, you, Kevlar, Baba Kamar, it's all oozing something that you even have a frame of reference from, because it's you can go further up the block and it's okay, that's the start of Insorma Institute. Then you go even further up the block, and even everything that was done with Dolores Bennett in these thinkings and different calls to action, and it's still in the heart of this. Like I say, the energy over there is a different energy over there.
We're impactful in ways that we completely. It's interesting because we are so. It's normal to us. It's normal to see these people. To me, when I see them, I feel like I'm seeing family. There are a lot of people like you and me, and shout out to my sister Sonny, who was one of the owners of Black Hole, and went and opened Copper Bamboo in New Orleans, and I believe has 2 stores now, and took that same energy to New Orleans, and is still doing the Detroit thing, just in another city. But we've had the opportunity to see each other grow up. One of my favorite things about throwing this event is I get to talk to Kev a lot more. Because if you don't know why you calling, he might not answer. But because he knows we're working on something. Because he he got a full plate, man. The brother's doing a lot, and he has his family. And when we all met, I got 11 kids. I had a kid or two, but now when we're discussing the business of this event, and we're like, well, hold on, what you want? No, you can't have a cookie. Tell your brother, go downstairs and get you some water. I'm sorry, brother, go ahead. Like, that's our whole conversation. And it's affirming for me as a father because I can't get through a phone call. But also it's a reminder that as we live and we grow, our responsibilities in this community change. There was a time when I was that young father at Ince Roma, and I'm watching, Bob Malik, who I don't even think knew me at the time. I'm watching this person. I'm seeing these. You know what I'm saying? My grandfather being a politician, I had access to a lot of people. The brother who used to be on the city council, I can't remember his name now, Kwame
Kenyatta.
Kwame Kenyatta. Yeah, like seeing these people and having access to be able to touch them, and then recognizing as they grow and some of them transition to ancestors, recognizing that our place and our responsibility changes.
And then even having like Jamon Jordan being like, it's like a different frame of reference when he was your kid's teacher.
Yes.
And it's like, damn, he got game. Like, you're sitting listening to your kid's teacher just talk to you after class, has got game, and now you see him build a whole, I don't know, like an institution of like Detroit Black history.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and you knew he had this before, but then it blossoms to like, I was already having that conversation back in 2004.
yeah. And we have, again, to take it back to the example you said with the one night in Miami, that we have these legendary nights and these legendary moments where we've shared with each other. But one of the things, and one of the things about Shu, right? Because Shu was she's operating on a higher platform than she was when she was operating Black Hole. But I'm close enough to her to know, same sister.
Yes.
Same sister. She has moved different. Yusuf is not, when I met Yusuf, we was much younger men, and we physically try to go save Detroit with our physical hands. Like, we go clean up this lot over here, no flyer, we just gonna clean up this lot. And like maybe two brothers would show up. And he was doing that way more than me. But I'm saying that to say, as we grow and we mature, the way that our responsibility in this family changes. And for me, this, again, it's levels to it. Me having dealt with, because there was a time in my family, like a lot of families, we didn't talk about mental illness. It's been in my family longer than I have, but we would say, oh, so and so, he on that stuff again, or so and so, she just got a bad attitude. She just got a nasty attitude. That's why I don't like that girl. Not knowing that our loved one is ill, and it would almost be an insult. Like, you need to seek therapy.
So bringing this together, especially in this space. In healing, because you're right, like, especially men speaking about mental illness. Yeah. Me and Josh, like, we go back and forth oftentimes. Yeah. I want to say we may have had a conversation even today. Like, as a man, and my mind, I work in marketing, so I think, like, thinking through the lens of a sociologist is what a lot of marketers do, because we're putting people, prejudging, putting people in buckets, and perceiving what the conditioning of how this person may see something. So the idea to make you want this product or to accept this product is like, okay, we have to have a frame of reference of what it is. Like, here we go, classic one. When people use a term like middle class, it's something that was incepted and created through marketers. Yeah. Because it's like, okay, we know you don't have enough money to think that you're rich. Right. And we know definitely you don't want to associate yourself as being poor. Right. So let's create something called the middle class to put you in. Yeah. And now we can fill these buckets with ideas. We're going to give you a television show. We're going to give you this to make you think that this is middle class. Yeah. So now we're going to incept these items into this television show to incept that this is what the standard of what middle class is. Yeah. So you're turning on the TV and you looking at 227 and you thinking that, okay, that's just a family. And it's like, okay, Regina King kind of fly. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, oh, man, Stoney Jackson's funny. Now, you're looking at that and you're thinking it's television, but it's incepting other ideas in your mind of what these items are. So now when Pearl says, I can't use my microwave, you didn't even realize, it's like, oh, damn, Pearl got a microwave? She middle class. I guess it's time for me to get a microwave. Like, you're not even thinking like
normalizing
this.
That. Yeah, that's
so as in marketing, it ties to mental health so much because it's the psychology of group thinking. Now, what it does not have the ethic or the morality to actually say, okay, filling up the bucket of wholeness. Because in the American ideal, it's like these things, this stuff will basically complete who you will be to completion instead of saying like you are already whole. Because if you walk into this and feel whole, then now you're not going to feel the pressure of like, damn, I need an iPhone.
So being added to you. Yeah.
So I gave that long runway to say, especially as men, it's not even places and spaces where we feel as though in that same conditioning, and we see it through television and everything else, like where we even feel a space and place to say anything. Yeah. Because if we do whatever we do, it's implied, and I know this is a social pressure, and we play on this in marketing and stuff, but whatever we do, we're supposed to do, because that's what a man's supposed to do. Yeah. So that's whether it's like, you know, man, like I did real good with my job. You supposed to do that. I did something for my kid. You supposed to do that. Like it's no like the pressure of being a man is like that's what you're supposed to do. Yeah. Now, and I already hear as a man, and this is that same pressure that women are watching. Like I feel the same way too. Yeah. I believe women have been conditioned in a whole nother lens. Absolutely. Where their association creates their value. And their associative value is like whatever that label is, whether that's daughter, mother, wife, friend. It's relative to who they're connected to. Yeah. Hence, a lot of the advertising, like this stuff is deep. It's like a lot of the advertising is always going to be branded with something, marketing, like in reference to someone else, in marketing to women. In reference to men, because it's like, it's what we supposed to do. It's almost like going to be more with pride about who we are as a man, and more with women, it's more about appreciation and being welcome and beloved and getting your worth and your value. You know what I'm saying? So these are things I often like sit and stew with, and then I play with them too, because I'm in marketing and I understand these things that are triggers that pull, because we've been so conditioned and incepted. And when people say, no, I grew up different, or my family, you know, I was a Quaker or whatever, it really doesn't, nobody says I'm a Quaker, but you know what I mean? Like my dad didn't let all that stuff in the house. My mom didn't let that stuff in the house. It's less about that, because it's society itself. The minute that you tap into this machine of America, the rest of the vestiges of America comes into play. Yeah. So here's an example that I often use for people of today's example. Yeah. You know, and I didn't think I was going to go on this long soliloquy, but it's just to show you guys how mentally this stuff plays on things. Right. McDonald's ran an ad a couple years ago with Travis Scott. Yeah. Right? Now, the thought process is like, why would McDonald's partner with Travis Scott? As a marketing person, it's completely smart, because the Travis Scott listener is not going to be the person that eats McDonald's. Right. But the Travis Scott listener is that kid of the person that eats McDonald's, or the grandkid. So now when granddad comes with a fish fillet sandwich, instead of the grandson saying, you know that's going to kill you and that's crazy, you done seen Super Size Me, they thinking, it's going to kill you, but they done gave some money to Travis Scott, so, you know, I guess it's kind of cool. Yeah. I mean, you laughing, but this is how we have to change. Like, marketing has shifted in influential marketing to ways where you can't even deliver things. Like, when we were kids, McDonald's had a whole different perspective of, you know, you drive by and it's like 2 billion sold. It would be like, ba-da-da-da-da. It was like a happy feeling and all that stuff. They've had to completely shift their branding as society has shifted and looking at McDonald's like, yo, that will kill you. So they have to be like, okay, in what ways can we market differently? The same way that you and I are around the same age. Cigarette companies did the same thing, and they had to pivot like in the late 80s, early 90s to make cigarette smoking. It's like, look, we ain't winning the battle no more. Yeah. So how do we market cigarettes differently? Hence, in movies, you know, influential marketing with cigarettes became a whole lot more popular, even though it was also kind of the first kickoff of like, all right, we're gonna pay the sexiest 100 women to smoke cigarettes at the St. Patrick's Day parade to incept certain things. Yeah. And even the whole concept of like study, I'm really getting into my nerd marketing world. Study De Beers diamonds. De Beers diamonds. Because the diamond is really worth nothing. It's a worthless stone. The value came because the De Beers family bought all of the diamond mines at the time, and we know they was blood diamonds, but I mean, let's be serious about what it was. But they bought it and they went to a marketing company and said, how do we do this? And it's like, okay, we're going to make the stone of a diamond be the signature piece if you're a man of pride to give your wife. So that's the diamond. And the campaign that the marketing agency did for De Beers, it did two things. It accomplished both incepted goals. It made a man feel proud,
right,
and it made a woman have an associative value to who this man that's proud is. It's like a win-win in the marketer's mind.
I hope, as I'm listening to you, I really, really, really hope you get an opportunity to bring Kevlar on, because that's one of the things that he works intently on personally is mindfulness, right? Because that, what you just described is, it brings me back to the mind. One thing Baba Kamara used to always say is we have to control the narrative. We have to control the narrative that we're feeding to our fans, but also like even in our own head, because I just did. So in getting ready for this Men's Healing Circle, I'm doing research and I'm part of this other Men's Healing Circle. We talked about gun violence last Sunday. Real dope group out of Philly. I can't remember the name of the group, but this is Men's Healing Circle. They're dealing with traumatized men, and this was for men who have been shot. Now, when they said what the subject was, I was like, well, I ain't never been shot, so this don't really apply to me. And then as we dug into the conversation, because that is the narrative is, particularly where we come from. People get shot every day, B. Like, we know this is an accepted part of us, but we don't recognize it as trauma to hear guns fire every night and for it to be normal, because it's normal. That's not healthy. This is one of those things that start to pick away, slowly but surely, picking away our sanity, because we're accepting that, okay, I didn't get shot. Somebody might have got. Was somebody get shot? Somebody get shot at? Was that the shoot in the air? Even if you're not conscious of these things are playing in your psyche somewhere.
To the point where, and it's so funny, you got me opening up even more, like even the Black Bottom Gun Club. And we've gone back and forth, and I've challenged, because it's like, am I anti-gun? Am I not anti-gun?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, the gun is a tool.
Yeah.
But I've been so conditioned from, definitely, I think, as much as I love my favorite art form of hip hop, it's also changed my perspective. And one of the favorite scenes that I got of the cartoon Boondocks.
Yeah,
it's a scene where Thugnificent is having, and it was like, yo, man, we live in terrible. And it's like a joke, but it was so real, because I'm like, damn, I think like that. Me and my homeboy used to laugh. So he was like, yeah, man, the cops got out of here. Last week I saw a guy get shot. Then they turned around and shot a deuce on him, and they peed on him too. And I looked at it and I thought, what did he do to make them that mad? Like, that's really... A lot of times, my thinking is like, when somebody gets shot, my thought process isn't like, damn, that's a tragedy, as much as it's like,
what happened?
What did he do?
What happened? And I mean,
and this is, I know it's a part of just the conditioning of, I've accepted getting shot as a reality
possibility. I can go to the store and get
in
shot.
Life. So it's like, he went to the store and get shot. Okay, did he have beef with people?
Yeah.
Was he messing with somebody's girl? Like, I have a context of basically like, okay, I have a list that have been in my mind of I have a predetermined list of, these are the reasons you can get shot. Yeah. And if you get shot for a reason outside of that, I'm like, what is wrong with you for shooting somebody for that reason?
But see,
not necessarily thinking, why in the hell is you shooting somebody in the first place?
Yeah, it's one of those places that we hide mental illness in our culture, because somebody is mad enough. Somebody has lived a life where they have decided that taking somebody's life, taking somebody who lives where they live, life is a viable option. Oftentimes for things that are not even really. Sometimes I don't even know this guy, but in this moment, right? But it's a right time, wrong guy. You know what I'm saying?
It's usually that, and it's so like, here's a classic one.
Yeah.
And I know my dad's probably shaking his head at this, but we all probably been through this.
Yeah.
Like a lot of kids. I got my bike stole, and I was robbed like at maybe like 13.
Right.
The response wasn't, damn, I can't believe what you got through. As a black person, what was the response of my parents?
What'd you do?
Where was you riding your bike? And it's we was going down the alley.
Yeah, what you like?
It's like you get robbed. Black people was like, what were you doing? Were you flashing money? It's like, because we've accepted certain conditions in our community where it definitely does not make the linear, I guess, quote unquote, I don't want to say even logical sense, but it just doesn't make the most healthy sense. Yeah. But it's just, these are things that we've normalized.
And how old are you when you realize that, right? How old was I when I realized gunfire outside my house is we don't even duck no more.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, back in the, you grew up in my era and it was people's like, man, it's crazy now. Like, I remember, especially on this block, because this is my block.
Okay.
And I mean, here we go. Folks had I guess we want to say a drug house or a spot that they sell drugs out of for some folks is a gang that at one point in time was very, very prevalent around here. So like if I heard if I heard a car revving up, you hear a vroom, vroom, vroom. And usually you hear like Compton's Most Wanted or Black Superman or Above the Law or like Spice One. Yeah. You just knew, all right, lay down.
Yeah.
On the floor, like, we playing with Ninja Turtles or whatever, and it's like, oh.
Yeah.
Because that's a drive-by. Yeah. Because people aren't revving up their car listening to Spice One just because it's a hot summer day.
Yeah. We accept it. We accept these things, and and the problem is, and that's one of the challenges with mental illness. I know in my family we had, I had a loved one who I was really close to growing up. I had a sibling, and when we got to a certain age, we was like this. When we got to a certain age, I started seeing behavior, and I was like, oh, this is like, what's wrong with them? What's going on with you?
My man tripping.
Yeah, and then it got to the point where, no, I don't rock with him. I can't deal with bro. Then it got to the point where it's like, man, until we were adults, we were in our 30s, and somebody stopped me and said, hey, you know he's bipolar schizophrenic. And it was one of the hardest moments for me because this was somebody who I know had my back. I know they always had my back. But in the moment, because of our unwillingness to have the conversation about it, because of our willingness to say, no, this is about you doing something wrong. They're doing something wrong. Not being able to recognize the signs. I didn't help them. I turned my back on them because they were sick.
Now, that definitely rushed me to like a lot of friends that we've lost, especially as men. We'll lose. In our mind, it's like, we get into the business, especially me and stuff like that. It's been close homies. Yeah. That I ain't caught up with. But even in you saying that, how do men even how do these healing circles work to create a space where, because that's the other onus and pressure that we have, like our masculine facade of not wanting to show this vulnerability of being who we are. Like sometimes just having a friend to speak things out, especially for me, I think through conversations. So like I need that. And I'm sure others need it too. But like, how do you create that space of men? Because we can be so guarded.
We can be guarded. We have egos. We have, I think you start by it like with anything. You show up. You come as you are. And, hopefully you have, because once we get to the point where we recognize, because just the event is something that came from conversations. Now, when we started to piece together what we wanted this event to be, we realized like, oh, okay, there are some people doing this work. I found out that the Sausage Center, they do a men's healing circle. The group out in Philly, they doing a men's healing circle.
King Wise is a part of Omari. King Wise.
Omari King Wise he was working with the Sausage Center right now. He's taking a break. Shout out to that brother, who definitely has been like a mentor in the learning to build these spaces for men, and letting, because it's a journey. We're talking about a journey, right? We're talking about, because my grandfather was the way he was. He wasn't like, he didn't make a choice to be that way. He needed to be that way in order to survive at the time in which he existed as a man. He had to really endure some things. My father and I started saying I love you to each other when I was in my 30s. My father was in his 50s or so. I started saying I love you to my boys, now. Some of my sons are teens. My son is 22. My youngest son is 3. Same thing with my homeboys, right? If I'm in a real good space with a brother, I'll end the conversation with "I love you." Now, the brother don't always say it back. Sometimes it's that pause,
it's
like
weird. It's like what's going on?
But I recognize.
It's like, oh, he about to ask for some money.
Nah, yeah. Sometimes I'm gonna do that. I might lead with that, but the fact of the matter is we have to. I think it just has to be a conscious decision. And that's why I brought up the controlling the narrative. We have to control the narrative with our own individual self.
Yeah.
A lot of these things we look at, we express the negative. So, if you have any understanding how law of attraction works, we are constantly reinforcing these things. So even when we speak about the event, we want to talk about mental wellness. Yes, there's a mental health issue in the community, but part of the event is crisis, right? Part of the event is saying, hey, it's 3:00 in the morning and my son is banging on my front window trying to get in the house. I don't want to call the police on him. I know he needs help. What do I do? So we're going to have those institutions, Henry Ford Health Systems. We're going to get somebody from DHS there. We're going to have the mental health facilities there to say this is what you do in that situation. But the bigger part of the event is we're dealing in prevention. We're dealing in lifestyle. We understand that these negative things exist in our environment. So so for me, I get up every day 5 to 7. And the reason I get up every day 5 to 7, I don't know if I mentioned this yet, I got 11 kids. So they coming on my door at 7 o'clock no matter what. I work at a school. I work with children who are, somewhat challenging. And, I work in an environment that's challenging because it's sometimes it's hard trying to free black kids inside of the education system. So I know that after 7 o'clock, the world is going to start taking. It's going to start taking. So 5 to 7 is my time just to do either nothing, listen to music, because I know one of my mentors taught me is you have to make sure that you show up every day with a full tank because they're going to take one, whether you show up with one or not. They're going to take, the day is, especially if you're doing something where you are involved with other people and sometimes dealing with their emotions, the world's going to take a full day. So you have to have habits. It could be your diet. You know what I'm saying? We know that an unhealthy diet contributes to mental illness. It could be the people you have around me. Let me develop some boundaries around me so that, because a lot of times we're prisoners of our relationships. We want to keep this person alive because we have this.
And then also, I like that you said that, but also it's like you say, it's like we pull from people and then you meet a new person. And this new person seems like so phenomenal because they just come in with that fresh slate. Like you say, they come in with that full tank.
Yeah.
And it's just so easy to just want to get that full tank from that new person. And then they become like the other person. And then now you've like manifested the reality of like, I knew they was like everybody else too.
Listen.
And it's like, I like you use the term boundaries.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you got to.
I do have to definitely I got to push back and challenge you on this, though, too.
What's that?
Because sometimes it's like, okay, how much of it is by choice and how much of it is circumstantial? And then is a person supposed to make that judgment? Because sometimes you may need to make that judgment to make your own boundaries. Because if you know someone is going through this crisis, how do you... If you know they're going through crises, but you need to fill up your own tank right now, what do you do? What happens in that position?
So I'm gonna be honest with you. There's none of this is cut and paste, right? There are times when I see that name show up on the caller ID, and I know what they call it, and I know that I'm their go-to. However, I can't answer the phone. I can't because I have to take care of myself in order to take care of them. So I might normally answer the call, and that's one of the hard things, right? Because we live, again, we're not doing these things from a perch.
In a silo,
we're doing these things down in the mud with the same. I ain't trying to pull you out the mud. I'm trying to climb out the mud while I'm holding your hand, hopefully, or climb out and show you how I climbed out. But either way, my point is. I mean, you have to really have a level of awareness, self-awareness. What am I feeling right now? And then, pay attention to patterns. Am I helping by helping, or am I just kicking the can further down the road? So, there's no one answer. There's no one answer that's going to apply to everything. You have to be aware of yourself. How are you feeling? Do you have it in you to take this phone call? I've had people in my life who, as a habit, knew they could depend on me during a mental health crisis. And I was happy. I was proud of that. That was something that made me, feel good that they thought they could lean on me. But I've also had them come to me when I didn't have it to give. And it ended up being damaging to our relationship because, A of all, I didn't say I don't have it to give this time. They showed up because I never drew that boundary with them. They came into the space. I was dealing with some stuff. And they spilled, because sometimes that's what we do. We come in people's space and we feel safe. We just pour it all out on top of them. Again, something else to be aware of. Are you adopting other people's emotional baggage, or are you causing them to be responsible for this? You know what I mean? Like, we want to deal with mental health, but we want to deal with it in a responsible way. You know what I mean? So, but long story short, in that situation, I ended up expressing some very negative energy because I didn't know how to say, hey, I don't have it in me to do this today. And, having gone through that now understanding, I need to really be aware that there are sometimes, like I said, I'm at work. I deal with some challenges, some kids who would be challenging at times. And although I want to be with them all day long, sometimes I have to recognize the human in myself and say, hey, you know what? You're mad right now. They got under your skin this time. Take a step away. Mm-hmm. Go to leave with the social worker for a second, and you go get you a cup of coffee because you need to balance. And I think it's if I understood all of it, we might not be doing this event. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like this is a knowledge that we're coming into, but we're recognizing again these things that impact us, our health, the things we eat, where we work. They're not happening in a vacuum.
And let me ask this too. Like, even as you went into that, different things can be triggering in different ways. Yeah. In different responses because we're all struggling. But also, I believe that, like everything, this kind of goes back into what I do in marketing. Yeah. Right now, mental illness is part of the marketing brand. Yeah, it's a whole wing of like connectivity to like, what you're talking about in real healing, because that's just how things go. When it gets through the gauntlet and it gets into people like, my hands, or people, I shouldn't say my hands because I'm not in that space of marketing. I understand the kung fu, but it's like I'm like the samurai that's like, we're not gonna kill people. You know what I'm saying? But I still understand that, it's a couple deadly pressure points right there. Yeah. Mental illness is that right now. Yeah. To the point where it's spaces where, I know a lot of teachers, it's like, students know, it's like, I'm having a mental health day. I'm not going to do no work. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, what do I do? You know what I'm saying? And then students, it's like, I'm going to exploit this. We going to brand this. It's like, oh, is Kanye struggling or is he not struggling? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, so in this world, as mental health becomes more of a marketed concept. Right. How now, because you get like more snake oil salesmen in the field. Yeah. Yeah. How do you still have something that's real sincere, that is full of richness? Because right now it is a lot of people that are trying to get a 1-2 steps. Listen. Yeah. Yeah. You can go, if you can't go on social media without a meme that is attempting to diagnose somebody as, a narcissist or some other actual medical condition, but it was a meme. So I'm mad at my ex. So she's this thing that I read this meme about, but saying that as an example. I agree. What I believe, I mean, I believe it's unfortunately it's a microcosm of everything else, right? Like we talk about education. Like, what's a real teacher? Is it somebody that works at a school in the classroom and gets a salary from, or is it somebody that is about teaching? What is a real healer? Is it somebody at the hospital, or is it somebody who's actually going about the business of healing? I think that's, again, highlights the importance of having spaces. First of all, spaces like this where we can control the narrative. Let's bring people to the table who are actually doing the work. In doing this event, one of the purposes in bringing the institutions to the table, because the irony of it is these people already get millions of dollars to do this. And unfortunately, we live in a system where that will require some policy change, that will require somebody in the political arena to decide that this is a worthwhile cause to get on the back of and move it further. And that's the dirty game of politics. If it benefits me, I'm gonna push it politically. I think that the other part of it is building the community so that we are able to recognize Detroit. Speaking of Detroit knows who our teachers are. Detroit knows the people who was doing urban farming before they was doing grants for urban farming.
You know what I'm saying? But Detroit knows, you know what I'm saying? Like if I got a real problem, I could call, you know, somebody at my job. I could call Mama Hanifa. I'm gonna call Mama Hanifa because she knows me. She knows me since I was a kid, and she can give me wisdom. She can give me advice. We know our where we get news from. You know what I'm saying?
That's deep.
So I think it's just about you have to build it. We have to build it because it doesn't exist yet.
Relationship in that community. Because right now I think that whole space is getting flooded.
It is
a lot of marketing, and it's a lot of things that are being looked at that are really. It's being commoditized. Yeah, it's being turned into something that's transactional. It's being turned into things that itself it's popped up and become more of what it used to not be. And I mean, this is what happens when you put anything through the gauntlet of America. It's like, oh, we starting to pay attention. We gonna make money off of it. You and I grew up. It's almost hard to even talk about it because we're so, we're close in age. Yeah. I'm 39, so like when hip hop was first introduced, when it didn't really have much money into it, it was just looked at as like something that was like something that kind of like nerdy, artsy black kids did. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Now it's a whole machine in it.
Listen to me, man.
But not just hip hop, everything. I mean, I think like when people say like, I got problems with the black church, it's like, but the black church at one point in time, just because of where we were as a people and segregation and Jim Crow, it's like, whether you liked or didn't like the black church, you was going to engage with it because it was the linchpin of the community. Yeah,
it was the power structure. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like you didn't have the luxury of saying I ain't connecting with the church because it's like, are you black? You know what I'm saying? Where else are you going to get a gateway? Yeah. Whereas, and then it's like, oh, it's value in that. So now it becomes more of a commodity. And I'm not saying this to dilute the value of either one of those institutions, but it definitely needs to be looked at because I think mental health is becoming something in that same space right now.
I agree, but I think, and that's the other. I'm glad you brought it up. That's the other side of it, right? Because we want to keep it pure. We understand the need for it, but also it's an opportunity in that because one thing that I think you can recognize is black people in America have adopted to the fact that this is a capitalist society, and the money dictates what happens in a certain situation. Well, we have experts. We have people who have done the work to be considered an expert. Now, it's about being strategic and utilizing our political capital and our ability to set up programs like this. That's why when, Sasha or these other entities are doing events, we're doing surveys. We're saying, hey, register with us. Let the people know that we got the people. Let the money know that we got the people. Because the money essentially wants access to the people. So those who have the relationship with the people are the ones who, we have to work on putting them in positions to affect policy, put them in positions to, do some of the things like what Shu's doing, like, what Nadi's doing, like, empower them in a way that's beyond just philosophical. Let's get a budget. You know what I'm saying? Let's put some of this experience we have, because we have people who are at the table who've been organizing, not just grassroots, but like building entities, for years. So, I mean, again, I don't want to sit here and pretend like I personally know all of the answers, but what I do know is that we can't keep doing what we've been doing. So, the first step is just the first step. We're doing this event at Avalon Village on the 24th of April. It is the first step, and that's the other part about it is we don't want to just do an event and then go away and disappear. We want to do an event and continue to impact mental health in our community. So we're going to build a resource where we can give people to say, hey, you need Reiki? Here, these are the people who are doing Reiki in your community. These are the therapists that are in your community. These are the steps you need to take. Are you trying to get a DHS worker to help you? This is the steps you got to take. You got to call the police? This is exactly what you say when you call the police. Don't say this. Let them know this part. So it's about, again, I think knowledge is as valuable as our ability to apply it to our life. Mm-hmm. So, we're doing this event. It's it's called Heal, a mental health conversation, but the conversation is just the beginning of anything. It's the conversation.
So before we leave, I definitely want to shout out to Sharia Ayers. That's my homie. Juneteenth Alive and so much more. That's just creative. We go back and forth. She says, usually when I connect with men, touch is very important because it means something. where's that space hug, touch? Like, what's your space? What's your thought process on that? And it was unique because I was like, damn, for real? And then she was like, and then I saw it, like she did, like it was almost like a social experiment in life. I felt like, like what's that lady that did Gorillas in the Mist or whatever? Like, I'm like, damn, this is like, this is interesting.
So that's funny you mentioned that. Because there's things that transcend our culture, right? No matter where you come from, no matter what neighborhood you grew up in, no matter what generation you are, and it's the handshake, right? It's the dab. I don't remember how old I was when I learned how to give somebody the handshake that we give. I'm pretty sure my daddy probably taught it to me. And he didn't say, hey, son, I'm going to teach you this. I'm about to teach you how to give a handshake. I got the dab from him. I got the dab from his friend. So now when I go and I move through life, and of course, when I came in the door, dapped you up. When you know what I'm saying? When I'm about to go, we're going to NEP tonight, I'm going to get G Smooth, play a handshake hug. I teach it. I do it with my sons. When I go to the schools that I work at, I do it with the boys there. I don't say, "Hey, I'm about to teach. I'm about to give you something that was given to me, that was given to my father, that was given. Like this is a thing that we've carried." So I do recognize there's it's also a way that you know if somebody really not like. If I reach out to give you a dap and you like, nah, that's how I know there's something wrong. Because this is normally he would have gave me a play. Now that's not happening. It's a communication, even in the dap, even the type of dap you give. You give a certain handshake, we from the same block, same hood. You know what I'm saying? So I believe I've experienced where the touch is incredibly important. It's communication. Behavior is communication, and touch is communication.
And now I gotta pry even deeper on that.
What's
touch
that?
Between a woman and man, and I'm not talking from the sensual space, but just the connection. So it could be grandmother, it could be elder, it could just be woman that I witnessed it. What is that in the pause of men, especially in today? Because nowadays it's like I'm so with all I got going, and I don't want to end up in no Me Too, nothing.
No.
I just feel like, my boundaries is like I need to almost give a woman even more space than I give them space. You know what I'm saying?
I think it's communication. I think it's communicate safety. Not just from the standpoint, because as a man, obviously, I want the sisters around me to feel safe with me. But I think it's something meaningful and valuable if a sister, comes and shows you affection by touching you. Again, not in a romantic or sexual way. Just I feel safe enough to touch you or hug you and have comfort in knowing you won't turn this into something that might be dangerous or unpleasant for me. And and you're absolutely right. We do live, man. Listen, we live in an age of what I will say is we live in an age of a very large amount of unprocessed and unrecognized trauma. We got to be honest. A lot of it's come from us. A lot of it's not us personally, but men who haven't respected those boundaries. So we live in a time where you need to check. Like, hey, but when you meet somebody, I always say, hey, I'm a hugger. I'm cool with not hugging. I respect, you know what I'm saying? I want your consent to touch a person. But if we do hug, if we develop that relationship, there's some women in my life that we're going to hug every time we see each other because that's communication. That's communication from her and communication to me. There's some people I don't want to hug. I'm not going to hug because I don't want to create a false sense of anything. You know what I mean? Like, I don't ever want to be fake. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's, it's communication, and I want to be authentic in my communication with people.
That's deep. And then this kind of go back to, I know Frida Sampson may be looking at this thinking like, yep, I told you. Just kind of go back to the old black church adage of like, lay hands on them.
Lay hands on them.
Lay hands on them means something, I guess.
That's
in our
energy.
culture.
We got energy. We hold energy in our body. So when I come into your space with my energy, I'm either trying to harm you or heal you. So I have some agenda. So when we do it with the intention, right, now there's an intention. I'm touching with this intention of, a lot of times when I'm dealing with children in particular who are in this moment of just frenzy and expressing traumatized energy, one thing that lets me know is I've done my job in terms of building that relationship is because my touch, just like our mother's touch might be able to calm us down in certain situations. You know what I'm saying? Like, it could be, it's that sometimes you need that person that can put their hand on your shoulder. And the way it comes, it ain't firm, it ain't grabbing you. They just letting you know, like, hey, you safe. And that's, it's come to the event. We're gonna have some healing touches there. That's part of Reiki, I believe. I'm not a Reiki practitioner, But one thing I've been blessed to experience some Reiki massages, and they're not grabbing your muscle and they're moving the energy through your body with their hands. They're not physically, you know what I'm saying, breaking you up like that. In my experience, again, I'm not an expert. I don't want to pretend to be an expert, but touch is, I believe it's one of those arts that we've allowed ourselves to lose track of, but that knowledge is still there, and that's the point of the event. Let's get together. Let's talk about healing. Let's talk about touch. Let's talk about some safe touch and some healing touch, and even just how can I touch myself when I'm in a moment and I need to calm myself. There's certain pressure points on your body where you can,
get
do those things.
Get your center.
Yeah.
So for me, like what you said, I'm music's my thing. So if people wonder, because Lord knows it's always going to be a lot on my plate.
Yeah.
Definitely, I'm engaging. My mind is moving. But if you guys could get, first off, go to that event. Go to that event, the 24th.
Donate to the GoFundMe.
Donate to the GoFundMe. I'm gonna be donating to the GoFundMe, and supporting that. But I do think that finding that center. I'm big on that, and that's where that music. Like you come in my house, but this is my flow. People be like, man, there's speakers everywhere. It's like, yeah. And it's different moods. So it's like I may start with Little Baby, then I'm listening to Aretha Franklin's gospel, then I'm listening to, Miles Davis, then I'm listening to Sarah Vaughan. Like it's
everything. Everything is in us.
It's a soundtrack for everything that's going on.
Yeah.
And I need to tap into that music to almost keep it going for me.
Yeah.
So music means something different for me. So like even through it, especially being like I say, hip hop's my favorite art form.
Yeah.
And hence I think the wavelength of it and deconstructing the wavelength. So I'm gonna challenge y'all. It's like this. Now I'm gonna put this on your court because it's something that I've always wanted. You and Kevlar, I would love for you all to start unpacking some of these hip hop songs because I understand the psychological context just being a black man of some of this stuff. So when the baby say something like, Lord knows, as they'll say, calling women out their name, only talking about money and talking about murdering other people. It's like, it's a context for that where I'm understanding.
No, yeah.
In that context, it's definitely certain things that I'm taking out that is justifying some of these actions that can be grotesque in our community, but it's also reflecting something that already exists in our community. But it also is a platform in a psychological context. And that's where I I wish some of these rap songs had like damn near like psychological disclaimers to be like, look, this is what it's saying, but what you're hearing is this. And I'm gonna challenge y'all to unpack a couple songs. That's something that I would love to be done because the world is misunderstanding some of, especially shout out 42 Doug, young dude from Detroit.
Absolutely.
So Doug's music and what he says is so. It's like I know Doug.
That I agree with you 1,000%. I have so many thoughts about it in that moment. You know what's really interesting, right? Because that speaks to the divinity, right? Because we have always had speakers who could move people, who could move the crowd. There wasn't no hip hop when Malcolm X was out. There was no if we understand what a great teacher, speaker Farrakhan is. Obviously, like Martin Luther King, other great speakers that we've had who can communicate ideas in a way that move people. And it sounds simple. You mentioned Lil Baby. I love Lil Baby so much. And he's not, if you're just listening to it, it's like you might not get it, but he's communicating a certain intensity and hunger in what he's saying. He's communicating some principles in some ways that are not, I probably wouldn't talk to my grandmama like that. No. But as a man who is moving through a world that is oftentimes adverse for me, sometimes I got to have that little chip on my shoulder to I'm going to be straight. And when I'm straight, my guy's going to be straight. And these are the principles that I live my life by. And I think it's really random. I'm going to say it because I was thinking while you were talking about the commodification of us. Because that's ultimately what it is, right?
Yes.
Today, we grew up in a time where there was no YouTube. Right. There weren't views. You couldn't become a millionaire by putting a video on YouTube and it just streaming multiple times. I say that to say with a lot of the young rappers, and it turns into, because everybody's aspiring to be real now. So I was looking at I was caught up watching videos about the Chicago drill scene and these rappers who from Chicago and all of the violence and things that they've been through in their hood. And I'm watching this, and it's a video shot by some Caucasian in Europe. Now, he ain't been to Chicago. He ain't in Chicago. He don't know none of them, but he done gone through. He done got the police reports. He done figured out which rapper shot this rapper, which shot this rapper, which shot this rapper. And the coldest part of it is he got millions of views.
Yeah.
He got millions of views. He got dozens of videos where he is speaking about this trauma in this Chicago neighborhood, which ain't nothing but about big as a quarter mile, where they are killing each other. And he is taking that story, put on YouTube, and is making bank on it. And that's not so different from the rappers taking our pain and giving it to the record label. And it's just, again, speaking to the power of controlling the narrative, not just in the sense of like discouraging rappers from saying what they're saying, but also like
putting it in the lens in the proper context.
Yeah.
I think one of the most viral things, and it's so funny you brought that up. I didn't think I was gonna go here, but this is so long ago. I mean, I think it may be about maybe 7, 8 years, like 10 years ago. So like the rapper Chief Keef.
Yeah.
When that 15-year-old got shot and it was like piss on his grave, and I was like, this is not a critique. It was I wrote a Facebook, this was back when Facebook notes were bigger, but that Facebook note got picked up thousands of times.
Yeah.
Like in a matter of a day, because I wrote a whole take on it and kind of unpacked it from the perspective of like, I'm not looking at Chief Keef. I mean, he's a young kid from Chicago. Like part of it is like Chicago, struggling with autism.
Yeah.
That wrote this. It's not him. And then people was like, he autistic, he can still rap. I'm like, I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that I know, because I'm in this industry and now I'm old enough to know that the handlers of him on all levels are understanding of things that they're using and exploiting, hence me getting some of my entry points into some of my marketing education, this trauma to market something without the full context of what's going on.
Yeah.
Like they're not even understanding some of the layers of how and what and why. So it's like, it's deeper than this person being murdered. As we say, it's already a bucket of reasons in our mind of why somebody can get murdered.
Yeah.
And when we think in Chicago, just due to what's labeled as gang culture, which, I mean, kind of when you look at what's happening in Ukraine and Russia right now, that's that same, But hey, I'm just being 100 with you so that you know. And as they look at us like we barbarians and savages, you know what I'm saying? It's the same premise. Because our society, through the lens, to me, since Western rule has gone on, has justified violence. Yeah. And we're black bodies in this experience of this Western thought processes, justifying what violence is. And as it comes out and exploits, it's just different. And so we're having toxic shock in this American experience as black people. But not just America, because it's this same colonial concept of, even in some places, if we go back to our own motherland of Africa, we may have that same toxic shock because this conditioning that's deep within us exists. So as I'm writing this and it goes, like I say, thousands of people watch that. I mean, looked at it. I mean, Facebook stripped down notes, so I can't even find it anymore. But it was a deep take on, like, they're not even understanding, but they have marketing degrees from Syracuse and communications degrees, and these people are looking and pointing and prying. I think shout out for Dame Dash saying culture vulture, and I guess that became something more marketed to point at and call what you just said. But it's deeper than that, because if you don't have a brother like me or you to even put this in the proper framework, they would not even understand what they're doing. Hence, they're easily exploited. Because they're, in their mind, it's like, I can get more popping. I'm gonna get more views. I'm gonna sell more whatever. Let's do it. And they're not even understanding what they're doing to feed into narratives that will justify those actions and also lock up more of us. make us look more like animals, make me and you with our skill sets and our talents never even be valued. Because it's being justified. So this is the duality that somebody like me and you grew up in, where it's like we love hip hop because that's our language. But at the same time, we also now are old enough to understand, or I'm speaking for you, but I'm old enough to also understand the limitations and what that does. So as Tupac said in, it's like, I'm not talking to them. I'm talking to us. But the reality is, the minute you speak it, it's going to them.
They're gonna react to it. They're gonna respond to it.
And
that, that's. I was just, as you was speaking, I was thinking about that, right? Because these guys are from Chicago. They grew up poor. They weren't millionaires growing up. No. You know what I'm saying? Even though, they was like much of us, and they because of their talent, they were able to bring millions of dollars into their community. Like millions and millions of dollars, and it's a dangerous thing when a child, and no disrespect, this ain't shade, I'm saying a young person, a person who doesn't have the experience of even knowing what they're up against. I mentioned me having guardianship of my two younger cousins. I got guardianship of them when I was a teenager because this is what I believed. I said, this is what's gonna happen. I'm gonna graduate, I'm gonna get a job, and we gonna live happily ever after. I was not aware of what world was waiting on me when I left my mama's house. A lot of these people who are getting access to capital without any knowledge of what they're up against and giving it back to, even when they give it back to the hood, is creating death. It's producing death.
Rest in peace. I mean, the brother here, Dex Osama.
Yeah.
I mean, Dex Osama, as we know, Dexter Osama, was in the way he was murdered, and what it was, and people looking at the tape. It's like, this is so. It's heavy. I mean, and not just that. I mean, so much. Even here, you know what I'm saying? We think about Blade. You know what I'm saying? We think about Proof. We think about Wipeout. We think about like so much of this and what exists, because like what you say, when you on board to this capital and your whole frame of reference is this neighborhood that may be a footprint where you feel comfort in this area, but even though you're comfortable here, due to your agency changing, people can't even look at you the same. Because now they're not looking at you as you. They looking at you as opportunity. Yeah. They're looking at you as a gateway to success because, like we say, we've been incepted to think that these things are what will make us have a higher quality of life and more fulfilled. Yeah. Does money... I can't say this. Like, I ain't gonna hold you up as a business person and everything. Money does provide you the opportunity of having more decisions on the table of what you can make. But just because there's more decisions on the table, don't even mean that those decisions are supposed to be made. Yeah. In reality, the idea of the scarcity, and with less, you almost have more value. And I'm gonna leave you with this concept. Like my dad said, my dad moved here from Cincinnati, and one of the first things they tried to push on him was, get a family, get everything going. Yeah. When he had a job with General Motors and working in white collar, and some of the older black guys said, "Man, don't do all that, because you get a job, you get going, that's gonna shackle you to the decisions you don't really want to make. Yeah. You shackle a person's freedom." Because it's so much more freedom and autonomy you have with less, the minimalist lifestyle. Yeah. But it's hard to even offer the whole thought process of like you're functioning at a higher plane through minimalism to a person that feels as though, because everything that we're conditioned is feel like we ain't never had nothing.
Yeah, what you talking about?
So it's hard to tell a person like, hey man, you got way more freedom. Yeah. It's so many people in our communities, like COVID impacted not our hoods, because it's like, it was so, like I saw some dudes like I want to say like 1 month into COVID, they was all passing a blunt to each other and they had their mask down on their chin. I was like, this is some of the funniest things ever. I'm like, this is classic Detroit. But the way we function, because we ain't had nothing, it don't matter. We ain't never have nothing to lose something. So you talking about I can't go to work? I ain't had a job in 20 years. Yeah. So my neighborhood was looking like it looked before COVID. Yeah. The only people that was calling me in crisis mode were the people that, I guess, quote unquote, had something to lose. Yeah. My hood was looking like, I'm for real, bro. It was like, you know what I'm saying? A couple weeks into COVID.
I was staying on web at the time. I know exactly.
Okay, so you was looking outside like it's Tuesday.
Yeah.
The rest of the world was living in COVID like, oh my God, what will I do? Will life come back together? You know, people grabbing shotguns and going to the drive to the governor's office and stuff, and black people was in the, my hood was like, we always kind of was like this. We ain't never had nothing. We ain't gonna get nothing. So in reality, hence this is the power in having less. They can't take nothing away that they ain't never gave you in the first place.
Yeah. I mean, it's real. It's real. It's, you know, it's all of that is. I just was thinking about the psychology of poverty, like having a poverty mindset. One of my mentors is a brother by the name of Herb Strather. He's done
a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. So one thing that he always speaks to is the poverty mindset that a lot of us approach things from, where you can give somebody money, but if they still think like a poor person, they're going to be separated from that. And you could have a person who may not have a large bank account, but they understand where their happiness comes from. They understand, you know what I'm saying? And that's even for me.
Really, it's a resource to be used. It's the same. I mean, the analogy I used to use is like if the city of Detroit tomorrow came out and said, hey, all our water you can't use. Yeah. And I got 20 gallons of water and you got $20,000. How much of that money are you willing to give me for this water?
Yeah.
Now, a person like me, because of how I'm thinking, but I've had access to more money, I'm going to say, hey, give them the 20 G's. Yeah. But if you have more, depending upon where you're at in that scale of scarcity and poverty mindset, you're going to be thinking, I don't know, man, water may come back on in like a day or something. I don't want to lose these 20 stacks. So
yeah, I don't want to miss this opportunity.
I'm going to be like, hey, brother, how much water can I get for 100? You know what I'm saying? And that's really the consciousness that we got to think. Yeah. Because the resource of water now has immediately become way more valuable than money.
And also the ability, because even when you say the ability to negotiate, some of us are so hungry and so desperate, we're not recognizing that we don't have to take the first opportunity that comes. That because you've been waiting for an opportunity so long, that the first time somebody offer you, you know, anything, you like, I gotta say, this my chance. You only get one shot.
Yeah.
Without understanding that you create your opportunity. So until you learn to create it, it won't be there. And once you learn to create it, well, if you create it once, you can create it again. And that's and again, that speaks to that personal wealth that you have as an individual, your ability to, you know, wherever city you put me in, I'm going to be able to find my people in that city. I'm gonna find the black bookstore. Where they sell fruit containers at. I'm gonna find a way to sell the wholesale fruit. I'm gonna get the fruit containers, and until I figure out what I'm doing, I know I can go in these barbershops and salons and sell this fruit, because that's a foundation I built for myself. That's a skill set I have. And you know, I don't think it's different in mental health. I don't think it's different in you know, any of these areas where we experience a lot of deficit. I think it's, you know, that knowledge of self is the most important knowledge, because it's like, you know, if you know you're gonna be all right, you know you're gonna be all right. What's the saying? But like, we have to decide whether we live in a hostile or a friendly world. But whichever one we decide is true. You know what I'm saying? If you believe that everything gonna be all right, everything gonna be all right. And if you really believe everything not gonna be all right, you're gonna find something to not be all right. You're gonna find a way to fumble it away. And if you believe you destined for it, you're gonna move that way. You're gonna move that way.
Because I've been conditioned through college, and I'm sure this was taken from someplace else. Plato's cave theory. Yeah. I'm sure Plato's cave theory came from some Kemetic science.
Say this.
The thought process is like Plato's cave theory. If you live in a cave, everything's gonna be a shadow. You turn around, outside the cave, you see sunlight.
Yeah.
But if you turn back around the other way, sunlight facing you, you see nothing but the shadow.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what you look at. When you change the things, you look at the things you look at change. And I mean, that's, you know, that's another reason I'm excited about the event, because there's going to be a lot of people who have been through this journey. When you get to peace, when you get through pain to get to peace, because in a lot of cases we have to, especially if we're going to be the ones who show other people how to do it. You know what I mean? You were talking to me earlier about, you know, somebody come on doing a podcast. You've already set all of this up. So now they just got to come and really sit in the chair. And
it's best when they ready. And when they ready, the resource exists.
Yeah. But had you never said, where I'm gonna get this phone from? Where I'm gonna get? I gotta put this. This was a journey that you went on, and now you're utilizing that knowledge to serve others. You know, that's part of the purpose of the event. a lot of us have had to dig ourselves out of dark places, but that qualifies us to be able to turn. Ideally, that qualifies us to be able to turn and show somebody, well, how did you get here? How'd you get through that? You know what I mean? So I'm grateful. I'm grateful for it because, like I said, this is a effort being born out of. I don't know what we're gonna do about Cuz. I don't know what we're gonna do about Cuz, but we got to do something. What I do know is I'm gonna do something. I'm not gonna sit here and wait for the news. I'm not gonna sit here and just wonder where he at. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna be like, well, who do I know? Who I know that's doing this? Who got a podcast that I can get on and I can let the people know? Man, everybody listen to Kyrie. Let me call Kyrie. You know what I'm saying? So it's what do they say? Necessity is the mother of invention.
It is. So give the information again, and we're gonna wrap.
So we're gonna be on April 24th from noon to 4 p.m. We're going to be at Avalon Village. They've completed the homework house, so we're gonna be in the homework house, and we're gonna be in the park. And we're going to have a great time. We're going to have workshops. We're going to have vendors. We're going to have counselors on site. If you need to talk to somebody, you can come out that day and talk to somebody. Most importantly, we're dealing with crisis. We're helping you get through this system, this maze of 800 numbers and websites that you can't really connect your family to resources. We're going to have people from those organizations there on site to be accountable and tell us, how do we get through y'all system? And then on the other end of it, we're going to have those healers. We're gonna have people that practice this as a lifestyle. We're gonna have a panel with some amazing speakers, but most importantly, we're gonna have Detroit there. We're gonna have Detroit. There's gonna be there. So those, not only the healers, but those who need healing, those who need to come and see a group of beautiful Black people, come that day. It's free. We're gonna have childcare. You can register for childcare. My name is Prostell Thomas. You can add me on Facebook, or you can text me 313-926-7409. Hopefully, we post information with the GoFundMe. And I want to thank you, brother, for
thank you.
Give me the time and the space to do this, because this is a big deal to me and my family. But I know we're not the only ones. So
respect.
Yes, sir. Respect, brother.
Peace.
Yeah.
Detroit is Different is where you get information, artistry, history, music, and even comedy. Detroit is Different, a home for the culture of Detroit. Visit online at DetroitisDifferent.com today.